Waves crashed against the side of the carrier as the red sun bled over the horizon, painting the deck of the USS Vengeance in fire and steel. Commander Mason Reed stood at attention, his faded flight jacket clinging to his broad shoulders, a ghost of salt and oil clinging to it like history refusing to fade. He'd been out of the Navy for years, retired, forgotten, dismissed as a legend exaggerated by bar stories. But now he was back, called in for one final joint exercise that no one quite understood. Why he'd been chosen for. The female admiral had made sure of that confusion. Admiral Evelyn Storm, her name as sharp as her posture, walked across the deck with the authority of a storm that dared no man to challenge it. Her uniform was crisp, her medals glittering in the dying sun. Her eyes, cold as Arctic steel, scanned Mason like a weapon system targeting its prey. "So this is the famous Iron Ghost?" she said, her tone laced with sarcasm. "The man who flew Black Ops missions no one can verify. The ghost of the skies." Mason's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. His gray eyes, quiet, unreadable, met hers for a heartbeat. "Permission to speak freely, Admiral?" he asked. Evelyn smirked. "Oh, please do. I could use some entertainment." "I didn't come here to relive ghost stories," he said quietly. "You called me. You need something. Otherwise, I'd still be home making pancakes for my son." A few of the younger SEALs nearby snickered under their breath, and Evelyn's smirk deepened. "Pancakes. That's fitting. You're not the man you used to be, Reed. You're domesticated." Mason tilted his head, unfazed. "You ever raise a 6-year-old alone, Admiral? That's a tougher mission than any Black Op I've flown." The laughter around them died immediately. Evelyn's face hardened, but she said nothing. That night, Mason stood alone on the deck, staring out over the dark waves. The memory of his late wife flickered in his mind. Like an old film reel, the sound of her laugh. The way she'd told him to fly safe. He touched the dog, tags under his shirt, and whispered, "Still flying for you, Sarah." The next morning, the exercise began. The operation was supposed to be simple, a mock interception of a rogue submarine, operating near the Pacific Defense Perimeter. But the moment Mason read the mission brief, he knew something was wrong. The coordinates were too erratic, the data too convenient. Someone had tampered with the scenario. As he walked into the war room, Evelyn was already at the head of the table, arms crossed. "Commander Reed," she said without looking up. "You're leading Bravo Squadron. Don't get nostalgic up there." He ignored the jab. "You're using outdated sonar arrays," he said. "If the sub is running silent, you'll never pick it up before it's in strike range." Evelyn looked up sharply. "You think you know better than my tech team?" Mason smiled faintly. "No, ma'am. I know I do." There was a tense silence, and then one of the junior officers muttered, "That's Iron Ghost for you." An hour later, Mason climbed into the cockpit of his FA-18 Super Hornet. His helmet bore a faded emblem, an iron skull with ghostly wings, and beneath it, his old call sign, Iron Ghost. "Bravo 1 ready for launch," he said into his comm. "Copy that, Bravo 1. Evelyn's voice crackled back through the channel. "Try not to haunt my radar this time." "Can't promise that, Admiral." The catapult fired, and Mason was flung into the sky. Minutes later, as he soared through the orange clouds, the radar pinged, 1 blip, then 2. Then nothing. Then 3, closing fast. His instincts kicked in like old ghosts waking. "Control, this isn't a simulation," he barked. "We've got live signatures inbound." Evelyn's voice came back sharply. "That's impossible." "The area's clear. Tell that to the missiles heading for your carrier." The next few seconds unfolded in chaos. Mason pulled into a high G climb as a heat-seeking missile streaked past his wingtip. Exploding behind him, the horizon lit up with fire. "Eagle 2, cover the carrier." "I'm going for the source," he commanded. From the command deck, Evelyn's composure cracked for the first time. "Who authorized live weapons?" she shouted, but her comms were drowned in static. The radar room descended into panic. Mason's Super Hornet cut through the clouds like a blade, diving toward the blips. He could feel every vibration, every breath, every ghost of the past whispering in his ears. "Iron Ghost, talk to me." Evelyn's voice came through, this time urgent. "Still flying, Admiral," he replied. "But your simulation just turned into a war zone." He dropped low, skimmed over the water, and caught sight of something. Black hull, no markings, no lights. A rogue drone sub-hybrid, autonomous, armed. Not American. Not friendly. "Target acquired," he said grimly. "Going dark." "Reed, you don't have clearance to engage." Evelyn snapped. He switched his comm off. Back on the carrier, Evelyn slammed her fist on the console. "Get me a visual on Reed." "He's off radar," one officer stammered. She glared at the empty horizon, whispering, "Damn it, Iron Ghost." Out over the ocean, Mason dove into the storm front, lightning flickering around his canopy. The sub launched another missile, but he rolled through the turbulence, countermeasures flaring. He could feel his pulse sinking with the heartbeat of the sky. "Just like old times," he muttered. Then impact. The sub's hull cracked open as his last missile hit home. The explosion lit the ocean in fire and steel. Mason's jet was caught in the blast wave, spiraling. "Mayday, mayday!" Bravo 1 going down. Static. Hours later, the storm passed. Search teams combed the sea. Nothing. Back on the carrier, Admiral Storm stood silently by the rail, rain running down her face. A faint signal blinked on her. Come one final transmission decrypted. From Reed's jet. She played it. "I told you, Admiral. Ghosts don't die." A faint chuckle. Then silence. Her chest tightened. She turned to her officers. "Double the search grid. He's out there." 3 days later, on a desolate beach somewhere off Okinawa, a young boy sat by the water's edge playing with a toy jet. A shadow fell over him. "Hey, champ," a familiar voice said softly. The boy turned and his eyes went wide. "Dad!" Mason dropped to one knee, pulling his son into a fierce hug. "Told you I'd be home in time for pancakes." The boy laughed through his tears. "You promised." From behind the dunes, a figure appeared. Evelyn, in civilian clothes this time. She froze, staring at the man she'd once mocked, now standing before her like a legend come to life. "I thought you were dead," she said quietly. He shrugged. "You can't kill a ghost, remember?" She looked at the child, then back at him. "You disobeyed orders. You saved the fleet, and you disappeared without authorization. Would you rather I'd stayed down there?" He said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. She exhaled slowly. "You're impossible, Reed." "Admiral, with respect." "I'm retired. Just a dad now." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "The world could use more dads like you, Iron Ghost." He gave a small salute, and fewer admirals who mock them. For the first time, she laughed, a real human laugh. The wind carried it away, mixing with the sound of the waves. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mason took his son's hand, walking toward the distant lights of home. Evelyn watched them go, her expression softening. Because in that moment, she finally understood. Legends weren't built in the sky. They were built in the quiet courage of men who fought not for glory, but for love. And somewhere in the distance, a voice echoed faintly over the comms left on her desk back on the carrier. "Iron Ghost signing off."